Hey soccer fans, welcome back to Feed the Fire, a Chicago Fire and MLS podcast. I'm your host Nick, and today we're recapping the Chicago Fire's 1-0 loss at San Jose. And in preparing for this show, I had a song start to creep into my head and just stick there that I think is appropriate. I don't know if you guys are fans of Simon and Garfunkel, but I've just been feeling, hello darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again. Because I definitely feel like we're back in the darkness, despite everything that's gone on the last, 4 or 5 weeks for the Chicago Fire. A little bit of a summer bump, but definitely back into dark days. And we're going to break down everything that happened in this last match, as well as get into a few headlines from around the league. But first, I want to remind everyone to go check out our new partner, Sports Spider. If you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, SportsSpider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as updated as possible on the Fire, hit the link in the description to check out Sports Spider. That's Spider with a Y.com. And yeah, they're a good aggregator site. They pick up everything. Definitely great for MLS coverage when you can find little niche and independent creators as well. Also, you can follow me on social media at Glasshouse Soccer, as well as email me at glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com. And I wanted to use an email from a longtime listener of the show and friend of the show, Ryan, to kind of kick off our discussion here. He sent me a very optimistic email before the San Jose game, and I think he assumed, like we all did, that the Fire would find goals against this terrible, terrible backline of San Jose, who had never had a clean sheet this season. Never kept an opponent scoreless until the Fire, of course. But he said that Kuipers will be in the running for the Golden Boot next year, and the year after that, he will set the scoring record. First off, I love the optimism. But Kuipers is going to need a lot of help to be doing either of those things, and the Fire just don't have the roster to support a Golden Boot winner, to support an All-Star even, to support an MVP candidate like Kuipers would be if he were leading the league in scoring. So the Fire aren't there yet this season, obviously. I don't know if they'll be there next season, just because of all the scouting issues and signing issues we have discussed time and time again on the show, that their best scouting comes from Lugano, the sister club. Let's see. And, the other thing is they need to change their tactics, and that's only going to come with a change in coaching staff. We saw Haile Selassie and Barlow playing much higher up the field in the second half because Kuipers was being asked to create opportunities for them. And that's not going to win you a Golden Boot. That's not going to even get you a goal. That is not why you pay a $12 million striker to be a setup man, to be a second striker. But these are all the reasons why, Ryan, I don't share in your optimism as much as I love hearing it. Now let's take that and jump into the match and see exactly what the Chicago Fire were doing and why they thought that Kuipers would be better off in the second half as kind of your second striker, right? So as I mentioned, it was a 1-0 loss away to San Jose, the worst team in the league, and we talked about why San Jose is the worst team in the league on our last episode. All the defensive numbers show them to be just the worst. Offensive numbers below average at best, and yet the Chicago Fire played down to competition, make San Jose look competent, and really the sad thing was the Fire came out very, very lethargic and listless, and just, they didn't feel up for it. I can't call it jet lag because even San Jose didn't look like they wanted to be there. Neither of these teams really wanted to assert themselves and take advantage of the other opponent just not being ready to play. That all flipped in the second half because San Jose came out of the locker room with a lot more energy. Maybe they got some Celsius at halftime. I don't know. But they definitely didn't look like that same kind of plodding, middling team, or as people are saying, that whatevering team they were in the first half. And they get the goal in the 49th minute, I believe. Yeah. It is the goal from Hernan Lopez on an assist from Christian Espinoza. And what really bothers me the most about this is Christian Espinoza, who is probably San Jose's best player, right? And he's usually the attacking player. He drops deep into the middle of the field on his own half of the field. He's in the middle third, but on his own half. And he is able to play a ball into Chicago's 18-yard box from there, and nobody is even near that other than two San Jose players. Not just one, two San Jose players, Hernan Lopez as well as another attacker, just run right past Chris Mueller and Rafa Chijos. And was Mueller playing like a right wing back at this point? I don't know. I don't understand it. Like, it bugs me that, well, I was very high on Chris Mueller coming into the season, but ever since his surgery, he hasn't been it. But you saw in this match, the coaching staff, now they didn't have Frank Klopas because he got a red card at the end of last game and was serving his suspension, but the coaching staff was like, oh, Chris Mueller came off the bench, Gaston Jimenez came off the bench last game, and they played really well, so we're going to make them starters. It's like they have no idea how to do formations or tactics. It's just like, I don't know, he looked good last week, and so they put him in. And not just put him in as starters, they gave Gaston Jimenez the captain's armband. Really? He has one good game off the bench last week, and all of a sudden, there's transfer rumors and all this, and now he's going to get the captain's armband? Are you kidding me? This guy's been anything but a captain based on his play and his performance and his on-the-field, quote-unquote, leadership. Like, there's nothing that you could tell me that would convince me that Gaston Jimenez should be the captain of a Major League Soccer team, even this Chicago Fire team. It just seemed extremely odd. The only thing I could think of was that they know they're going to transfer him, and this was like, here, be captain before we transfer you. We'll give you this little honor. I really did not like that move. I think there's other players who are more deserving, and I get them wanting to give it to Fabian Herbers in the absence of Xherdan Shaqiri or Rafael Chijos, but like Kellen Acosta, Brian Gutierrez, heck, even Chris Brady. We've said it a number of times on this show that there are plenty of other good captain candidates out there that aren't Shaqiri, Herbers, or now Gaston Jimenez. Anyway, I'm really like jumping ahead on my notes here just because I'm so fired up about that. But let's go back and take a look at that lineup and see exactly who was playing. Now, MLSsoccer.com has the starting lineup for the Fire as a 3-5-2, and then the second half ending lineup is a 4-2-3-1, and they did kind of shift things around. So I'll read to you what MLSsoccer.com has on their website, but the fact is the Chicago Fire play one formation when they have the ball and they're on offense, and they play in another formation when they don't have the ball and are playing defense. And a lot of teams do this. They have their defensive shape, and then they have what they want to do offensively. But the Chicago Fire are so disjointed between the two, they have no idea how to transition back and forth. And in this game, they had no idea how to play quick or to play forward direct to Kuipers. Almost makes me miss Shaqiri just lobbing long balls over the top, because Kuipers would make his run and be in a one-on-one situation with a defender or being able to slip between two defenders, but the Fire would pull the ball back, face away from their attacking goal, and play the ball back, play the ball laterally, because they have been told, we got to play up the wings, we got to play up the wings, we got to play up the wings. We have a 3-5-2. We have Suke as the right center back and Chijos as the left center back, and those guys need to play the ball up to their wingers, Aragoni and Haile Selassie. Like, that to me makes no sense. And again, the Chicago Fire coaching staff, if you're going to give Jimenez and Mueller the starts because they had good games last week, well, why is Haile Selassie playing on the left wing and not that dual striker, second striker with Kuipers, at least according to this lineup sheet? So again, the lineup sheet shows Chris Brady in goal, Suke as the right back, Olmsberg in the center, and Chijos as the left back. Your midfield, going from left to right now, Marin Haile Selassie, Kellen Acosta, Brian Gutierrez, Gaston Jimenez, Alan Aragoni, and then your two strikers were Kuipers and Mueller. I don't think whoever did this for MLSsoccer.com got this right in the least bit, but the way the Fire played and were moving around, and the way Chris Mueller was like having to track back in the box in an attempt to stop that cross from Christian Espinoza on the goal, like, that to me just shows that the Fire had no idea where they're supposed to be or what they're doing, and this coaching staff had no idea how to prep this team. And again, getting back to the goal, you saw Christian Espinoza have nothing but time. Now, on the one hand, I'm glad that the players didn't get sucked up and buy into Espinoza in this moment of almost like a false nine moment, where he's an attacking player who drops deep to pull the defense up and allow the wingers to run in. But that, I don't think that's what was going on here. And in this position, or in this formation, if you've got five midfielders, the center back should be staying back anyway. Like, this is where Jimenez and Acosta and Gutierrez need to step up and pressure the ball. But, you know, when there's no real formation or no tactics, nobody knows where they're supposed to be or who their defensive assignments are in these situations. And these are set plays, by the way. This kind of a play where you're your attacker or your midfielder here is dropping back and then pinging a ball. It was kind of a diagonal, but it was so direct it's hard to say that this is a designed play. And the Chicago Fire should have been scouting this, and they should have known that when Espinoza is getting the ball in the dead center of the pitch in their own half, he's going to be looking for this. And the fact that Mueller and Chihos were so late to respond to this, and the fact that Brady was not off of his line grabbing this at the top of the box that we see so many keepers do reading these plays, just tells me that the Chicago Fire scouting completely missed this, completely failed in their job preparing. I think they just went, they suck, San Jose sucks, we'll be fine. Nope, you failed to do the basics, you failed to be prepared, and it's always the most prepared lawyer in the room that wins, at least that's my experience, and the most prepared team on the pitch was going to win, and the Fire were not that. Now, going into the second half, they tried changing formations, and that didn't help them at all, because they also changed tactics, which were terrible. You saw them go to a 4-2-3-1. This time, you saw, according to MLSsoccer.com, Haile Selassie drops to the left outside back, Aragoni drops to the right outside back, and you had Olmsberg and Suke playing in the middle. Chihos being a D-mid, Koutsias coming in as a sub for, I think, Acosta it was, to play D-mid. Herbers comes in. Kuipers is now your central attacking midfielder. This is what I want to focus on, because nothing else matters. The Fire could be all over the place. But this is what I want to focus on, because this was the screwy thing to me. You bring in Tom Barlow, a guy who... Let's take a moment to talk about Tom Barlow here, right? He's not an MLS striker. Let's just say it. Let's be real here. I had Red Bull fans messaging me during this game, watching Tom Barlow lowlights of him just whiffing and missing open goals and not even putting things on frame. Red Bull fans were messaging me saying, we told you this is what you should expect when you sign this guy. And I'm like, this has to be a joke, right? This has to be a bit. How can anyone miss this many open opportunities in a single game, let alone all season? But that's Tom Barlow. And yet, and even the Chicago Fire mentality for Barlow has been, when we have a lead, put him in to press and lock down the other team. Barlow's not the guy who's going to chase and score you an equalizer, but yet that's what they did here. They even broke from their own coaching methods to put Barlow in as the guy who's supposed to help them equalize. And they dropped Kuipers back into a second striker trying to create things. Now, thank you to Transcendental Willie on Twitter, who said Kuipers is the only guy who's creative enough to be doing anything on the pitch, so they had to move him into the second role. I'm like, you know what, but that's an indictment on the rest of the team and the coaching staff, because Kuipers needs to be the one scoring goals. Now, eventually they also bring in Koutsias, and they're just throwing numbers forward, but as we know, nobody knows how to get service. And at this point, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers and 5 defenders and nobody in the middle, and San Jose was able to ride this game out. So, once again, what themes do we have going in this game? Lethargic, lacking of urgency, no offensive creativity, nothing going forward, rigid play up the wings. You're not looking for your DP striker when he's the primary target, and then you move him to a secondary player. And everything was bad here, right? Just everything was bad. And that's how you lose to the worst team in the league. Now let me take another quick look at my notes to make sure there's nothing that I missed. And yeah, I did talk a lot, and I did miss something here that I wanted to mention, because in talking about Tom Barlow, you have this guy who's proven not to be a goal scorer. He's like a pressing defender in a forward's body. And when you're a striker, your only job is to score goals. I don't care what your work rate is. I don't care how good a teammate you are. I don't care about a lot of things. When you're a striker, you score goals. End of story, period. That's it. Barlow's not doing it. You have Koutsias on the bench. You brought up Herrera. You had Selassie playing some weird wingback type of role this match that he's not used to playing either. I don't know, maybe the Fire thought that they could mix things up against the bad San Jose team and still get a result and try something new here. Nope, you don't do it in live games. You do it in training, not in live games. But the fact is, you have all these other attacking players. Why is Barlow the one who's coming in ahead of all of them? He has not proven anything yet with this Chicago Fire team. Now, to be fair, neither has Koutsias. Selassie was starting to get into the groove. we know this coaching staff doesn't play CF2 players. The fact that Glasgow got any sort of first-team minutes during the course of this season was wild to me. And he showed that he was playing with a lot more hustle and determination than a lot of these first-teamers. So maybe they should have put in Pareba for this game, who's one of the top scorers in MLS Next Pro. I just don't understand how you have so many attacking options and you put in the guy in Tom Barlow who's there to be a defensive pressing type of forward when you're chasing a goal. Doesn't make much sense to me. And the crazy thing is, I actually was okay when they signed him. Like, he was relatively cheap. You need some veteran presence late in games for him to come on, see games out, things of that nature. That's all good and great. The team was kind of rebuilding, so I didn't really mind the Tom Barlow signing at the time. And I know John Donovan was really big on him, our featured guest in a lot of our episodes here. He was really big on him. He thought he could be kind of what was it, a Brian White kind of guy? It was a White who came out of Red Bulls and is now finding success with Vancouver, and maybe get some more consistent time. But that has proven not to have panned out. So that is another thing that I wanted to throw out there. And again, the tactical changes, the substitution changes. I mean, you thought Klopas's tactics were bad. Look at Paulo Nagamura, and it's a wonder why he ever got as long of a tenure as a head coach elsewhere as he did. Now let's wrap up real quick here with the stats on the match. Chicago ended up with more possession, 53.5%. 10 shots on goal, okay. 10 shots, 1 on goal. 1 shot on goal, which should not surprise anyone then that translates to an expected goal of 1? Wow, I didn't even... So they had one shot on goal, and apparently that was supposed to be a sure thing, and it did not go in. All right, fair enough. Or at least the volume of those 10 shots at 10% each perhaps helped. But again, the Fire not getting high percentage shots. If every goal is weighted about a 10% chance to go in, that gives you a 1 XG, not high percentage shots. And I think that 1 shot actually came like in the 4th minute. So the Fire went almost 90 minutes without a shot on goal. Not how you win a game. I know it's easy. I know it's easy to say. You can't win if you don't shoot. And the Fire, the only thing the Fire seem to shoot is themselves in the foot. Let's be honest. As far as passing numbers, 442 passes for the Fire at 80.3%. So an okay passing game for them. But again, a lot of the passing was not in dangerous areas. And I'd love to go find a heat map and see, or a passing map. I didn't see MLS Statistics and Analysis put out their usual tweet this week. Maybe I just missed it because it was a Sunday night match. And oh my gosh, how bad is it to watch this Chicago Fire team lose to San Jose and then have to wake up and go to work the next day? That's just miserable. 17 crosses. So they were trying to get the ball in the middle. 2 offside, 16 aerial duels won to San Jose's 14, so nothing too crazy there. Brady is credited with 2 saves, 10 clearances by the defense, 11 fouls, and 3 yellow cards. And I think one of them was for arguing, so it's even... Oh yeah, Fabian Herbers also got a yellow for dissent with the ref. So that's just, again, not a good look, right? Good thing that wasn't our captain. So that is the statistical breakdown of this match. I'm not sure what to take of it other than what we already know about this team. That little 4-game point streak, the little winning 3 out of 5 and getting points in 5 out of 7 that we saw throughout June. That's not this Chicago Fire team. That is this Chicago Fire team coming up against oppositions who were just utterly defeated, and yet still not being able to translate it to any sort of result against the worst team in the league, albeit an away match. Okay, I had to regroup there for a second, all right? And with that regrouping, I could reach for a bottle of Skira Icelandic spring water right about now. Boy, I could use a bottle of that. Skira Icelandic spring water, available at your local 7-Eleven. One of our sponsors here on Feed the Fire, and our first real supporter and real sponsor here, and we would not have gotten the show off the ground without them. So please get out to your local 7-Eleven, buy a couple bottles of Skira, and just thank them through your purchases. Skira is Icelandic for clear and comes from a spring in a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland with naturally low mineral content. This isn't your average water. Clearly, pun intended, it's one of the best. Now let's get into some other MLS headlines. In our next episode coming out Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we will preview the Chicago Fire's next match, a home game against New York City. I will be at that match, so if you're there, if you want to come say hi, I'll be up in section 205. I'll be hanging out with my wife and kids at this match, so feel free to wave, say hi, talk a little Fire, talk a little soccer, talk a little life, depending on how bad the game is going. But yeah, hope to see you all at the NYCFC game this weekend. Also, I want to put this out there that there was a very ardent Chicago Fire supporter, Josh Strauss, who unexpectedly passed away recently. He was a major supporter in the Arson City Ultras, and I'm not going to stand here and pretend like I know him, but for any of you who do, or for any of you who are part of the supporters groups and supporters culture at Chicago, they are doing a little bit of kind of a vigil or memorial for him before the match. So go on some of the supporter group socials and look for all the details there. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I knew Josh really well, but I got to know him a little bit over the course of me being a new season ticket holder. And when I started going to the Chicago Fire tailgates, he was one of the first people I met. He kind of saw that I was kind of wandering around over there by myself as a new person to the supporters tailgates, and just came up to me and said, "Hey man, I'm Josh. Let's have a Chicago handshake." And we just got to talking, and he always made sure to kind of pull me aside and say hi at games. So really sad to hear about his passing, and for everyone who knew him and loved him, I just hope you can find some solace and strength in remembering him as the wonderful guy that I'm sure he was. So moving on from kind of that little supporters headline there, I do want to recap a little bit of what's going on around Major League Soccer. We'll start with a couple of the transfer rumors, and then we'll wrap with some of the All-Star headlines. Thiago Almada has completed his transfer to Botafogo in Argentina. Now, we knew when they brought him in, it was a $16 million deal, young DP. They knew he was not going to be here very long, and it was like, can we get something for Almada, both on the pitch while he's here, and then flip him into a big transfer, as Atlanta has tended to do in kind of that Miguel Almiron role. And while they didn't win any silverware or hardware or trophies, whatever you want to call it, with Thiago Almada, they definitely got a return on their investment. So they signed him for $16 million a couple 3 years ago, and he ended up being transferred out to Botafogo for a fee of $21 million, and it could get up to $30 million if incentives are reached. So this is a wonderful piece of business for Atlanta as well as for the league. By the way, the trivia around Thiago Almada is he was the first active MLS player to win a World Cup. So he was on Argentina's roster in 2022 when they won, and was part of Atlanta United, the first ever active MLS player to win a World Cup. Now, Thiago Almada, like I said, he's transferred to Botafogo in Argentina, and as part of the deal, he will progress to Lyon in Ligue 1, or Ligue 1 in France, next winter. So Lyon, Crystal Palace, and Botafogo are all part of the same ownership group, Eagle Football Holdings, and so that is how they're going to move him. He'll have a little effect in Argentina, and then move him on to Europe as well. Another name that popped up when I was looking at the transfer tracker, DC United signed free agent forward, drumroll please, Dom Badji. Yep, that Dom Badji, with all his history in MLS, he is coming off a free agent deal in Turkey, or I should say he'll be a free agent coming off a season in Turkey. Got a lot of history in MLS. I didn't even realize the dude was still playing. I feel like when players go over to Turkey, they just kind of disappear until at some point they're like, oh, hey, we're back in MLS, or hey, we're coming back and working out with your MLS Next Pro or USL team. Like, that's, to me, just Turkey is just like a black hole for soccer players, and you just go there and that's it. Nobody hears from you. Nobody knows what's going on. But maybe that's just me, because I'm not really interested in the Turkish league. I've seen enough players come out of the Turkish league who go to top 5 clubs, or top 5 leagues, or top 5 club leagues, whatever you want to call it, in Europe, and just don't do very well after their time there. So maybe that's why I downplay it or don't know much about it. But you know what? Dom Badji's back. DC United get a backup striker. So he will be eligible July 18th after the summer transfer window. And the last bit of news I wanted to go over, and I've been teasing it the last several episodes here, and I just always run out of time. So I'm going to force it in right now while we got the last 5 minutes here. MLS All-Star roster is in, and you can vote online right now for who your captain is, and there's 4 choices for captain: Lucho Acosta, Leo Messi, Chicho Arango, or Cucho Hernandez. You could vote for any one of those guys as the captain. I voted Chicho. For me, it was between him and Cucho, and yeah, I get the Messi thing, but that's just too on the nose for me. So I would like to see either Cucho or Chicho Arango be the captain there. I just think those 2 guys really embody MLS and have really picked up their game coming here, embracing everything about being an MLS striker and an MLS player and an MLS, like a face of MLS, right? These guys embrace that role. Maybe it is being the striker. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the captain position there. But here is the lineup. Now, these players were voted in by the fans, and then there's also coaches' picks and commissioners' picks. So here's who was voted in alphabetical order: Jordi Alba, Lucho Acosta, Chicho Arango, Christian Benteke, Sergio Busquets, Justin Glad, Aaron Herrera, Leo Messi, Martin Paes, Dallas keeper, Ricky Puig, Miles Robinson, and Luis Suarez. So it's hard to argue with. First of all, it's hard to argue with anyone who makes this team. Let's just be honest. Maybe a commissioner pick on occasion, but I think this year it's fine. Maybe a couple coaches picks. They want to get some hometown guys in there, but it's Wilfred Nancy and Columbus. Like, anyone on that team could be an all-star based on how well Columbus is playing this year. So those are who was voted in. Coaches picks: Federico Bernardeschi, Denny Bouanga, Roman Berkey, Rudy Camacho, Matthew Stranieri. Love to see him. So happy he got in. Evander, Ryan Gauld, Cucho Hernandez, Robin Lod, Hugo Lloris, Thiago Martins, Steven Moreira, Hani Mukhtar, Luca Orellano from Cincinnati, Keegan Rosenberry, and Diego Rossi. And then the commissioners' picks: Don Garber gets 2, Hector Herrera, and Darlington Nagbe. So the goalkeepers here, it's Roman Berkey, Hugo Lloris, and Martin Paes. You can't argue with Lloris. Maybe you can quibble a little bit about Berkey. I haven't watched enough Dallas to know if Martin Paes, I'm butchering his name, if Dallas's keeper is good enough. It says he leads the MLS with 87 saves, but if you're going to talk about that, then where's Chris Brady in the conversation? Because Chris Brady is so good a goalkeeper, but his defense is absolutely terrible. And I feel like Dallas is in a similar situation, but maybe he just got more of the fan vote. I don't know. I voted for Chris Brady as my all-star keeper here. And are there other deserving keepers? Heck, maybe. But the fact is that these are the guys that got voted in. I would expect Hugo Lloris to start unless they are going to give it to Paes, who got voted in, versus Berkey and Lloris, the coaches' selections. All right, those are your goalkeepers. If you're looking at defenders, here is who is along the back: Jordi Alba, Rudy Camacho, Justin Glad, Aaron Herrera, Thiago Martins, and Steven Moreira and Luca Orellano. So, and Miles Robinson and Keegan Rosenberry. God, I got to keep scrolling. This is not a really good setup for how they did this on their webpage here. So those are your defenders. Again, I don't know how good Keegan Rosenberry has been. I don't know how good Thiago Martin has been for New York, or Aaron Herrera for DC, but it's hard to quibble when you're looking at backline. This has not been a very good defensive year for MLS, and usually I'm thinking like big center backs, not so much wing backs. And I think a lot of people, when voting, are voting for more of those traditional defensive center backs versus kind of a wing back because they think it's such a more offensive position. But that's why we've got a lot of midfielders here. And who are the midfielders who get voted in? There were 10 of them: Lucho Acosta, Sergio Busquets, Matthew Stranieri, Evander, Ryan Gauld, Hector Herrera, Robin Lod, Hani Mukhtar, Darlington Nagbe, and Ricky Puig. I don't know if Hani Mukhtar has been having an all-star season, but he's got the name recognition and the former MVP award, so that definitely helps. Hector Herrera, I'll be honest, I think that's kind of just we need to appeal to some Mexico fans. So the commissioner's going to pick the big name DP guy from Mexico, and maybe he's going to get Chucky Lozano to make an appearance with him at some point during All-Star Weekend. And looking at the strikers: Chicho Arango, Christian Benteke, Federico Bernardeschi, Denny Bouanga, Cucho Hernandez, Leo Messi, Diego Rossi, and Luis Suarez. Who else are you going to put up here? Like, this is fantastic. Fantastic lineup. That's for sure. Now, from the Chicago Fire perspective, the only one who had a sniff at All-Star, in my opinion, is Chris Brady. And honestly, Chris Brady probably should have been training with the Olympic team at the very least. And Brian Gutierrez maybe gets a shout from the Olympic team. Definitely not All-Star. He has not taken that step up like we've seen from him. Gutierrez said at the beginning of the season he wants 15 goal contributions this year. I think he's around 7 right now as we are, 22 games into the season, give or take, depending on who you're playing. So no All-Star performances from anyone on the Chicago Fire team. Now, if you were just to look back over the last 6 weeks, maybe you could say Hugo Kuipers would have a shout because he's starting to finally get on the score sheet. I think he is now up to 6 or 7 goals with the Chicago Fire, handful of assists to go along with it as well. So he's rounding out a little bit. But again, you're going to see when the Fire don't know what they're doing tactically, he's going to go through goal-scoring droughts. It'll be feast or famine for him until they get a new coach and tactics, until they get some new players out there. There's probably a lot more we could talk about, but let's save a little bit for the next episode as we preview New York City coming to Chicago, matchup on the lakefront this Saturday the 13th. Hopefully we get to see you all there. It's country night. Get in there early. Get your Chicago Fire cowboy hats. It's the one time I'll be singing country music because I'll be having a good time at the game. But anyway, with all of that, I want to thank you all for tuning in, listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, share the show. Promote it with your friends, your family, your soccer people. Do everything you can. Let's continue to grow the show and grow the conversation around the Fire and Major League Soccer. And as always, let's go Fire.